Welcome to the session on market access. And just to recap from the introduction, we have explained that to access the market, entrepreneurs and SMMEs, they need to make sure that they've laid the foundation in terms of one, administratively, they have their administrative part in order. Two, it comes to the team. They have the necessary skills to execute the project or the activities of the business. That's two. And three, they need to make sure that they are fully compliant with the legislative requirements of the industry. That's three. And then four, they need to prove that they have done similar work before. So they have references in the space that they want to access the market. And lastly is that they have the operational infrastructure to execute the opportunity or the project that they're looking for. So if you are an SMME and you're looking to access the market in a certain field, you must make sure that operationally you have the infrastructure to execute if you were given an opportunity. Not only the physical infrastructure, but as well as the financial resources. So that sometimes you need to have capex, you need to have working capital for you to run a project that you might be given. Those are the 5 key things that as an entrepreneur, as a SMME, you need to make sure that you have in order. You make sure that you continuously improve. And yes, initially, you might not have everything, but make sure that you're continuously working on them. So now I'm going to repeat them because they are very, very, very important for SMMEs. The first one is on the administrative compliance. Make sure that you have your company registration document, you pay your CIPC, you make sure that you pay your tax, you have your tax clearance. If you're in your sector, they're looking for a letter of good standing from Department of Health, you have those in order. So on administrative side, you have proof of res, you have ID copies of the directors, shareholders agreements, proof of res for the company. So that's on the administrative side. You need to make sure that you have those in order. We're going to go into details in terms of what is required and how our app assesses you on those. That's the first one on the administrative side. The second one is on the industry compliance. Certain industries require certain things. So if you're in mining, you need to have a mining license. If you're in training, you need to have you need to be accredited for the training courses that you're offering. If you're running a franchise, you need to have a franchise agreement. If you are providing food, you need to have food and safety, health and safety certificate. So those are the industry specific. So the second one is to make sure that you have industry specific compliance for the sector that you are focusing on. That's the second one. The third one is you need to make sure that you have a team to be able to execute whatever the opportunity that you might be granted. Yes, you are still looking for access to market, but the person who's going to give you the opportunity will want to see if you have the technical skills to execute the project. In terms of technical skills, as a small business, you might not be able to employ all the experts that you might need in your business. You might not have all expertise internally, but you must build networks, you must build relationship with people in your sector so that you have an understanding. It can be an SLA or a memorandum of understanding with certain experts that you can't afford at the current moment to bring them on board. Then you enter into a SLA or memorandum of understanding so that you can use their profile when you are approaching the market for you to try to enter the market. You can have the service level agreement to agree on your terms in terms of if you get an opportunity, how you're going to work with them. They will be freelancers or you can bring them on once you secure the opportunity, but you must negotiate with them upfront to know what kind of expertise you will need from them and then how much they will charge you in terms of the rates, if it's a rate per hour or per project, depending on the sector that you are in. The third one, you need to make sure you have the expertise, build relationship, have the network of people that if you secure a project, you will be able to use. until you get to a point where you will be able to employ them on a full-time basis. That's the third one. The fourth one, make sure that you have references, because sometimes when you're looking to access the market, if you don't have references in terms of where you've done the work before, where people can vouch for you to say you've done the work before and they were happy with your service, the next person might not be willing to give you an opportunity because you don't have reference letters. Make sure that you secure reference letters upfront for the type of job that you have done. But if you are a startup, sometimes the business itself, it doesn't have references, but you as a person or the part of the team might have references. So you might obtain reference letters on your individual capacity, but ideally the reference letters must be in the business name. The client that you have serviced before, they should be able to give you reference letters. At least have 5 reference letters, and they must not be older than 3 years, those reference letters. So that's the fourth one. That's the fourth key factor that you need to make sure that you is sorted. And the last one is you must have your operations. You must have the infrastructure to execute the project, depending on the type of project that you'll be executing. But let's say a certain company wants to give you an opportunity, they must be able to come and verify where you are operating from. Even if you don't own the infrastructure, maybe enter into a service level agreement with people who owns the infrastructure, so that you can show your potential market to say, even though I don't own the infrastructure, but I have this service level agreement with so and so. Whenever I have the job, then this is how we're going to execute the job. We have the service level agreement. This is how they're going to charge me for the equipment or for the facility that I'll be using. It's not that you need to upfront have the facility. You might enter into a service level agreement or lease or whatever agreement, memorandum of understanding, whatever agreement you can enter into with the company that or the institution that will be providing you with the operational infrastructure. But if you can secure the operational infrastructure, so that when the people are giving you opportunity, they have infrastructure that they can verify, so that you give them that confidence that you will be able to execute the project. Under the operational readiness, you need to make sure that the other one is, sometimes you need capital expenditure to execute certain projects, or you need working capital to execute the project. So as you go out into the market, you should be able to prove that at least you have sufficient working capital to execute the project if you are given the opportunity, or you have the potential to secure the working capital if the type of project that you're executing, it requires you to also have to buy certain assets or equipment. Then you need to be able to indicate that there's indication that you will be able to secure that funding for you to execute the project. Those are the 5 key things that you need to make sure that you prepare, you make sure that you understand what are the requirements. Those are the 5 key factors that you need to look at. Administrative compliance, make sure that you are ready. Industry-wise, you need to make sure that you have the necessary accreditations and licenses. You need to make sure that you have the team that you'll be able to use or access to execute the project. 4, you need to have references where people can verify that you will be able to execute the project. And lastly, operationally, you must have the infrastructure or access to infrastructure and access to funding or working capital for you to execute the project. So those are the 5 key things that you as an SMME, you must have. So just to recap, that's the introduction in our course to market access. And then now we're going to dive into those 5 factors that you need to look at. First, you're going to go into the administration and compliance to make sure that administratively you are compliant. Okay, now we're looking into the operations section. When you want to access markets, right, you need to make sure that your operations systems are working, are in place. So the first thing is, obviously, you need to have the physical resources to enter the market. In terms of physical resources, is where you operating from. Do you have resources to execute if you are given the opportunity? Because if you don't have the physical resources, people might give you access to market or give you opportunities, but you don't have the resources for you to execute or to do the work that they want you to do for them. That's the primary or the most important thing that you need to make sure that you have. And the second one is, do you have the financial resources to execute? Sometimes if you want to do a project, you might need working capital for you to execute that project. Or if you're doing certain project, you might have to put in the capex or buy the equipment and all that. So do you have physical, operational resources to execute that market? Secondly, do you have the financial resources for you to service the market that you want to access? Because yes, you might want to access the market, but you might find that operationally, either with the resources, you are not ready to access the market, or you don't have the financial resources to access the market. But in terms of the financial resources, we'll discuss it more in detail when we're doing the finance section. Now, on this one here, on operations, one of the most important things is systems. You need to have operating systems in place. That's what makes organizations successful. Or again, that's what makes organization give reputable organization opportunities, because they have systems in place to execute the project. If you don't have systems in place in terms of operations, the quality of your services and product might not be standard, because you're not following a system, you're not following processes. You haven't designed and developed processes so that if I give you an opportunity, I need to know the type of product or the service that I'm going to receive, the quality of that product. But with many SMMEs, the product is, or the services are known. You don't know what you're going to receive when you give an SMME an opportunity to provide you with product or services. It's only when after they receive the order or the opportunity that they are running around trying to make sure that they provide you certain quality of service. That's why most of the time, okay, not all the time, most of the time, SMMEs are not given an opportunity to execute, because you don't know what type of service you're going to get. You rather go with the reputable supplier, because sometimes your job is on the line. You wish to give an SMME an opportunity, but the product that they will give you might not be up to standard, and that might affect you. If you are in procurement or supply chain, that might affect your career. It's important for organization or SMMEs to have systems in place, more especially the quality management system, the operating system. This is one of the things that the app looks at to say, do you have an operating system in place? In that operating system, we look at the processes, operation process, operation skills, and the efficiency of the operation. That's one, where you look at the processes. Do you have documented processes? Are they efficient? Do you have the necessary skills in that to be able to execute? So on the process side, you need to make sure that if you are looking to access markets in a specific area, you need to make sure that you have processes in place and you have the necessary skills in that. Then, do you have capacity? Because you might want to access the market. You might be approaching, for argument's sake, let's say a bigger organization like Pick n Pay to supply them, I don't know, with fruits. But you only have 1 hectare. So that 1 hectare, because organizations, such big organization might not have local procurement, but I know most of them have. Just give you an example. They might not have local procurement. So your 1 hectare wouldn't be enough to supply Gauteng, for argument's sake, because some of these you need to supply their DC. So if from the DC then they supply maybe, I don't know, 1,000 of those shops. So with your 1 hectare, they wouldn't be able to supply all of them. So they might not give you an opportunity because you don't have the capacity to supply them. So you need to understand that the capacity required for the market that you're going into. Uniqueness in terms of your operation? Is it unique? Is it different? What are you offering them? Do you have IP on the intellectual property on the processes? Or it's just the run of the mill? Anyone can do it. Remember, sometimes an organization will give a small business if it's bringing something different, or you have intellectual property on certain products and services that you are offering. Because if it's a run of the mill, why should they give you access to the market? Why don't they give a person next door? Those are the things that you need to look at to say, you can complain that they're not giving you access to market, but do you have a unique value proposition? Do you have unique intellectual property that you're offering? Is your product unique or different? Are you doing it differently so that the market can want it? For you to access the market, look at the industry that you are going in. If you can come up with a way of doing something, it doesn't have to be rocket science. Maybe you might improve the processes of doing certain things. You might improve the product and the services, how you supply those products and services. That's very important. You need to make sure that you have something unique that you're offering, so that this big organization, or even if it's government or whoever that you are looking to access, there should be something that they see or they believe in your organization, so that they can give you an opportunity to access the market. And other things is, we're living in the world of technology. IT becomes important. Make sure that your operations is high tech in terms of, if possible, it's high tech in terms of the operations, so that you are more efficient in terms of offering product and services. And the second one is the technical compliance. That's very important. If you're supplying food, you need to have food safety. If you're supplying training, be accredited. If it's a mining, have a license. Make sure that you have the technical compliance for you to be given an opportunity. If you're looking for a, let's say maybe building, must have the necessary SBD levels, because you might want to access maybe the RDP market, but you might not be on the right level for you to access it. There might be minimum. So make sure that the market that you want to access, you have the operational compliance. It depends. Different sectors have different things. And technically, do you have access to the raw material, if there is raw material that's required? Reliable suppliers. The lead time in terms of the delivery. The labor, do you have the necessary skills in terms of technically to deliver on the product? And then where you're operating from, the factory, the layout, is it the way the industry wants it to be? Do you have necessary plant and equipment? Have you secured them? Do you have asset register? If they maybe request that you show them, give us the asset register to see that you have all the assets in your business. The last one is the processes. You have systems and procedures in terms of the processes. So if you go in, is your operation management system? Do you have financial management system? Do you have human resource and do you have the corporate governance? You must have systems in place, so that when they give you the opportunity, they know that you have systems in place. Not only operational system, we spoke about operational system earlier, but even the administrative system, to make sure that you have an HR system, to make sure that when people are supposed to report at a certain time, they are reporting at that time. You have corporate governance, where meetings or approvals are required. There will be meetings that are held on time as required by the person who's giving you the opportunity. Systems are very, very critical: operational, administrative, financial. Because if you don't have financial systems, they might give you a project and then you might overspend on certain projects, and you might not have sufficient financial resources to complete the project, and you end up doing shoddy work. Systems are very, very important in terms of the operations. Make sure that you have systems in place to be able to execute the project, because without that, then that leads to execution failure, which is one of the high risk why businesses are not giving entrepreneurs an opportunity. It's because they don't have systems in place. You can't trust them that they will deliver on time. And if they don't deliver on time, they impact you as an operational person, or it can even impact the organization as a whole. Or if they don't deliver the quality product, then your brand is getting impacted by the failure of the SMMEs. Sometimes SMMEs are not given an opportunity or access to market, but it's because people or institutions are not trusting the quality that they're going to get from these SMMEs. So that's why in terms of this app, we're making sure that we look at those things to make sure that organizations put systems in place. They put management systems in place. They make sure that they are compliant with all the statutory requirements. They have sufficient resources, skills. They have the operating place, and everything is in compliance so that the market out there can have confidence in that enterprise to give them the business opportunity. Now, as an entrepreneur, then how to use our app in terms of how to complete the market access assessment. After you've logged into the website, you'll come here to say, yeah, complete your business plan. And then you see it changes to manage your business plan listing. If you click on manage business plan listing, this is your organization. It will be listed like that. It shows you where you are in terms of the rating. Ideally, it's for you to be on 95% so that the market can see that you are compliant. Now, to update each section, you will have to click on your business. Then it will bring you this dashboard. So basically on this dashboard, it's got all the key sections that you need to consider or that you need to work on as an entrepreneur to access the market. The first one is administrative section. You need to complete all the sections by clicking on that rating there that you see there. So if you click on it, it will give you a form that you need to complete. And the second section is on management. This is assess the management and the technical ability and know-how of the team. And the third one is on the market section. It assesses your value proposition, the market that you have already secured, the barrier to entry, and the industry growth. So this is just analyzes the market for you to see if the market that you are going into is viable, and it rates you. And then the third one is on the operational section. It gives you the overall rating. So on the operation section, we look at the operating system, we look at the operating and technical compliance. We look at the systems and processes because they are very important to look at. And the fourth one is on the finance section. The funding that is required, the working capital required, and the actual performance, your current actual performance. And then the financial projections that you have made and the financial security. What security are you providing? And then on the fifth one, we're looking at the social impact, which is the social empowerment and the job creation. So there you're going to do the self-rating, where you rate yourself in terms of where do you see yourself, but the app will guide you. And the last section is on legal section, where legal compliance, are you compliant with the requirement of your industry, and if there are any litigations that you are involved in. This is the dashboard for accessing the market. As you complete it, first you will self-assess yourself to see where you think you are. And on the red one, then the facilitator, you'll appoint a facilitator through the app who will assess the same things that you have assessed, so that when we send out your profile to potential institution that will be able to give you access to market, it will have both the ratings, your ratings and the ratings of the facilitator. Make sure that when you complete this, you are as honest as possible. If you don't have the documentation, just be honestly respond to the questions that are asked in an honest way, so that even when the facilitator is doing the facilitation to support you, they know that they are starting from the correct base. Because in an effort for you to score a higher overall score, you might want to exaggerate some of the rating. It's not important. It doesn't help you. You might come across as a person who's not reliable. For you to make sure that you are consistent and they know who they're dealing with, your initial assessment is very, very important. So I'll show you how you do your initial assessment, but that assessment is critical because it's set as a basis, because after the facilitator has assisted you to improve your scoring, then you're going to have the assessor who will be totally independent, will also assess your score to see if the scoring was reasonable and it was consistent, so that he can recommend your business for access to market or access to funding or whatever the opportunities are there. So depending on the consistency of the scoring, it's important for you as an entrepreneur to be honest when you're completing this assessment tool. To complete the assessment tool, depending on which section you want to complete, if let's say you want to complete the industry growth, you just click there on self-rating. You have the tab there. If you click there, then it opens you a window for you to show you the items that you need to assess. For example, it's operational system, is documentation, is the training that is being provided. So there are different scores for that item. So for you to edit the score, you simply go and click on edit. So on edit, you open this form. Then there's a question, operation management. This one is the overall comments that you give in terms of the supporting document that you verified or the supporting documents that you use. And then on the challenges identified, as an entrepreneur as well, be as open as possible, because this is the development areas. Because if you try to hide the challenges, then the system or the people who are assisting you, they wouldn't know which area you want support on. So it's very important for you to be able to identify the challenges. It's mainly on this section. And then the corrective actions is on the corrective actions that you think they must be taken. So it will be your view as an entrepreneur, and the facilitator as well will have a view on what corrective actions can be taken. So these are the actions that will be taken to improve your scoring. There must be interventions that are required, and then the app, as its objective is to facilitate access to markets, it also facilitates access to training. If you identify opportunities here and you put in the corrective action, then the platform will be able to identify the entrepreneurs who need a certain intervention, that it will group you together and source that specific intervention on your behalf. It's very, very important when you're completing this form that first to be honest on the first section, honest throughout, obviously, but being as clear as possible on the challenges that you have on this section, and then the corrective actions that you wish they could be taken, or the corrective action that you're gonna take. It depends. Sometimes there are certain things that you will be able to do on your own, but there are sometimes certain things that you can't do on your own. So here you indicate the corrective actions that needs to be taken. Then you get to the assessment itself, where there is a drop down. We made it easy for entrepreneurs. It's the drop down. It gives you options. Then you just choose the closest options to your organization. Here, the first one, for instance, say operation management system. Okay, is it sufficiently documented? Do you have sufficiently documented policies and procedures? If yes, then it will be sufficiently. And then if no, if it's insufficient, it's documented but it's insufficient, then you choose that. Or if you don't have the system at all, be honest about it so that we know what interventions your organization will need if it requires intervention. It's not that if you put in a negative, call it a negative answer, you wouldn't be assisted. But you will get an appropriate assistance if you are honest when you complete this diagnostic tool. This is what we call diagnostic tool, because it diagnoses the challenges that you might be having in you accessing the market. But the important thing is to make sure that you have access to market. So we identify all the problems challenges that you might have, and then make sure that they're addressed. Here on the system, And then on the operational management, then we have, is the system documented?